probably will. Exclusive to Supersport.
Well, you may have seen Jaws, but what about the dunes? The first of the killer dunes have arrived. Not a good day for Frenchman Jean Broussy. He's out after a high-speed tumble. And it was just more and more bad luck for Grégoire de Mavius. He's been in trouble, and it's not looking good for a Dakar finish. Many of the competitors in the Dakar had a very, very quick day at the office yesterday. And when even somebody of the likes of Kenjiro Shinozuka says it was one of the fastest stages he has ever done, you really do have to sit up and take notice. Second part of the marathon stage into the town of Zouarat. And many people were saying that they were Harry Flatters all of the way, and so it looked. So then, today's stage from Zouarat down to Attar. Short liaison of some 9 kilometers out of the town, and then going pretty well south to the first control point en route to completing your 383-kilometer stage, arriving a matter of 4 kilometers before the bivouac at Attar itself. Well, the motorbikes were flying high in more ways than one as Jordi Arcarons was reaching for the skies, as all of the KTM team were tackling the dunes as a whole. Some of them, though, were roostering their mate. Alfie Cox just cresting the dune and appearing through the dust like a ghost. But of course, the problems were now appearing for the V-twin KTMs. Giovanni Sala, he actually led until the refueling point, but as you can see, ran into trouble. It can happen to even the pros. Some of the most spectacular scenery of the Dakar is now really coming to the fore, although of course they haven't got a minute to look. Kari Tiernan, first on the stage, 9th overall. He said it was easier to go quicker from behind. Remember that he had a bad day yesterday when he destroyed the front wheel. And remember what happened to Tiernan last year. He lost an enormous amount of time, some 9 or 10 hours before the rest day, and he was given carte blanche to really flat chat it to the end. That's exactly what he's done today. And of course, he managed to travel through the stage without too much dust. Fabrizio Mioni, though, defending Dakar champion, 8th on the stage and first overall with a lead of some 1 minute and 53 seconds. He said that it really wasn't a bad day for him at all, especially after the refueling points. Alfie Cox, this is images of Alfie just after he had taken an enormous tumble. He got caught up in some dust on a flat bit, got unsighted in the dust, hit a rock with the rear wheel, and he just went out the front door. Look at the damage on the right-hand side of the machine.
Jean Samaritain encore.
Jean Broussy at the refueling point saying, well, maybe I'm just a Samaritan all of the time, trying to help out Alfie. By the grace of God, Alfie was uninjured, although he punctured the 2 fuel tanks on the right-hand side. And from then on in, Alfie had fuel leaking into his right boot. And by the time he got to the finish, he said it was burning. Very, very lucky boy. For the others, though, it was rocks, rocks all of the way. People are now getting weary, they're getting tired. The temperature today at the finish was well over 40 degrees Celsius. However, later in the stage, things were not good for Brucey. Very odd situation. Here we have Eric Bernard, a friend of Brucey, arriving on the scene literally seconds after he'd fallen, as you can see at kilometre 239. And the TV crew first on the scene. He says, do you remember anything?
Non, pas trop. Tu sais pas ce qui s'est passé?
And you don't need a translation for what the answer is.
Fort.
He says, I fell.
Très fort, à mon avis. Bon,
And the standard questions being made for when somebody has had a big concussion. Where are you and what day it is? And the true signs being shown. No idea. Well, on boards with number 168, Luca Arentini. He says this is a difficult stage today because there are many, many dunes, and we have to find our way through the dunes with the best places to jump through them. This morning I started in 60th position overall, and there are a lot of tracks for me to follow, particularly on the stage at the moment. Dugavado, keep an eye on him. He was 6th on the stage and he's now 2nd overall, only to Mioni. He pushed very, very hard indeed, but he had wise words at the finish. He said, I said, are you happy? And he said, well, happy is a dangerous word. Happy is a word you should use at Dakar. He said, I prefer to use the word calm and concentrated. Nani Roma, 7th on the stage, 3rd overall. Of course, last time he came to Attar, he was in the hospital, so he is just happy and counting his lucky chickens. Jordi Arcaron's 2nd on the stage and 4th overall, 8.5 minutes exactly behind Mioni in the overall standings after well over 16 hours of running so far, as we now are coming into the rest day. It's all very close at the top. Esteve Puyol, 3rd on the stage today, leaves him 6th overall behind his teammate. And even Richard Sankt was getting stuck at the top of the dunes, proving that even the world's best are having trouble on the Dakar. So therefore, if even the pros are having trouble, well, what about some of the rookies? Well, Eric Verhoef going over the top of that dune. He's not a rookie. He actually won his first ever entry to the Dakar back in 1988. He took a big break before returning, and then he's taken another break before returning this year. Others, though, were enjoying life, jumping for joy. At the finish, PG Lundmark was happy that he got to the finish. He's running a temperature of some 39 degrees. He's taken some pills, although he's not feeling too well. There's the stage then. Finland's Kari Tiernen winning 3 minutes ahead of Arcaron's, Esteve Puyol, Sala and Sankt. And overall, Italian Mioni has that lead of 1 minute and 53 seconds, which is next to nothing in Dakar terms, ahead of Dugavado and Roma. So Kari Tiernen saying it's, of course, easy to follow the others in the dunes because you just have to follow their tracks in the sand. I was alone, and of course, where there was no dust, it was good for me, whereas the others had a lot. It was easy for me, and then at the end of the stage, I really gave it the turbo, as if I was doing a motocross.
Nauttii ajamisesta. Oli ihan kiva ja crossia oli ajanut tuossa lopussa.
Sì, una buona giornata.
Fabrizio saying, not a bad day. It was easy on the first part, but I was careful. We were together, but when you lead, you have to, of course, then make all of the navigation. In the second part, after the refueling, Carlo Dugavado just went very, very fast. And I followed him, but there was a lot of dust, so it was then harder for me.
Carlo ha accelerato al massimo e io l'ho seguito fino all'arrivo con tantissima polvere e comunque va bene così, per il momento è tutto sotto controllo, perfetto.
I was just unlucky, man. I was behind Carlo this morning, and you know how you get patches of dust as you go along, and next minute it was like night time and there was one stone. It hit the back wheel, just set the bike off, and down I went. But I fell in the stones, you see. So it just destroyed everything. I mean, broke both petrol tanks, exhaust is flattened, I've had no power. But what I had to do, I've had to disconnect each tank to save fuel. Use the leaking ones, connect up the ones that have got fuel in to try and make it. I mean, it's been a day of adventure, I tell you.
At the beginning of the Dakar, we caught up with Draw Cohen, the first disabled driver to take part in the world's biggest and most emotional motorsport event. A former F-16 fighter pilot. Ironically, he had a car accident in a minibus, but he's still able to drive. Now, this is him arriving at the start at Ozazat a couple of days ago, getting ready for another stage. However, it was not just another stage. A problem with the car soon emerged in the clutch and the gearbox area. So, he goes to the time control and asks what sort of limit he has.
9:13.
Time 9:13. I hope they will finish.
7. You have 2 hours.
Yeah.
So the crew set to work, and not just the crew, but Draw as well, getting well stuck in. So, gearbox out, clean it all up, and find out what's gone wrong. Get inside the clutch, and try not to get too much dirt in.
No, I cannot sleep now. I'm full adrenaline. I'm like a tiger. Because if I have a mission, I will do it, you know? I want to get to Dakar, and he has to put me in the water.
French, we said you have smoked the carpet.
I smoke the carpet, yeah. On the limit.
No.
Woo! Ah, baby, yes! Après, à la nuit. Good. Oui.
So a happy ending to a story with a true team effort. He continues in the rally. So then into the car section, and you can imagine what it was like driving through the dunes. Stefan Pederhansel, 5th on the stage, 5th overall in his South African-built Nissan crew cab. Although it didn't quite work just as he got to the crest there. Had to stop actually 5 minutes before the end of the dunes in order to try and cool the engine as the temperatures were going through the roof, let alone getting stuck. And as I mentioned earlier in the programme, the ambient temperature's well over 40 degrees. And of course, once you get moving, you daren't stop, so the poor co-driver was left behind for a couple of minutes. Kenjiro Shinazuka, 4th on the stage and now 2nd overall. Although he had a puncture, and ironically enough, the hole in which he put the jack into on the car had been knocked from round into square, and therefore the jack wouldn't go in properly, and he lost a lot of time. Jean-Pierre Fontenay, 3rd on the stage today, and another one who had actually damaged the front of his car. he said that he had to lock the front differential to try and lock those front wheels to get him through the dunes. And even when he was moving, he could not fly over the crests too quickly, because otherwise the front would just take off and it would dig in. Jutta Kleinschmidt, second on the stage and now third overall. She said it was the first real day for her on this year's Dakar in her lightened by 100 kilograms Mitsubishi Pajero. The samurai of the Sahara. He deliberately said that he drove like a maniac, nearly breaking the car because, as he quite rightly says, the mechanics have got a full day in order to repair the car tomorrow during the rest day. He won the stage some 5 minutes and 5 seconds ahead of the rest. Not a good day, unfortunately, for Saeed Al Hajri. He lost 50 minutes, and he's now 8th overall. He lost 50 minutes. He said he was just driving sideways around a dune, and it just toppled over. It wasn't a question of flying. It just toppled over at a very, very slow speed. Very, very frustrating. And as you can see, the car is just beyond the vertical. So trying to move nearly, pick a figure, nearly 2 tons of car back onto its wheels the long way was maybe an issue, but soon Carlos Souza, their Mitsubishi teammate, arrived on the scene. They attached a rope, and they then pushed it back onto its wheels after having dug a hole from underneath the lower wheels, as you can see, to aid its cause. Matt Stevenson pushing a little, but it was done. And once back on its wheels, ironically, it was then stuck in the sand on its tummy, essentially, on the sump guard. But soon they got going, but of course those precious 50 minutes had been lost.
ماشي بسرعة حاول أعوض وقت لأنه تعرف بعد الحادث اللي صار معي اليوم ضيعت وقت كثير.
On board with Saeed, he says, I've got to go fast because I've got to try and take some time back after my accident. And obviously with the time lost, it's difficult. A lot of cars in front of me, and I've got to drive through their dust. Carlos Souza and Luc Alfond, 6th and 8th, respectively, on the stage. But Souza is 6th overall, and Luc Alfond is now 7th overall. Petrol and diesel Mitsubishis, respectively, let us not forget. You can see those dunes, they are evil. They are just waiting for a car to fly over, the front end go down, and then, of course, the back end catch up with you, and it ends in tears, just like it happened to Gregoire Demavius and his teammates a couple of years ago. It's that easy, I can tell you. Gregoire Demavius, he had problems today. Remember, we saw images of Demavius pushing his car out of the control zone at the end of the stage yesterday. Well, we've not had official confirmation, but apparently he has been running on 5 cylinders and he has been seen being pushed, being pulled, towed through the stage. Gianni Lorilama is going through the stage here. He finished the stage 12th overall in his Mitsubishi Pajero. His Italian co-driver Roberto Di Persio alongside him, and of course getting out and doing the dirty work. Many, many crews have been stuck, including Belgian Vanina X. And it, of course, does not help when you have got a puncture such as that. And there you can see the result of somebody going over a dune blind, the front end going down, and it all ends in tears. Everybody okay? So then, Masuoka flying through the stage, deliberately almost trying to break the car, and it worked. 5 minutes ahead of Kleinschmidt, Fontenay, Shinazuka, and Peder Hansel, nearly half an hour back. But overall, Masuoka's lead is now 11 minutes 46 seconds going into the rest day.
Today you go maximum.
Yes, sure. I'm every before I said today maximum attack. This morning I said this morning. So very important today.
Why was this?
For me.
Why you go maximum today?
Because tomorrow we have 1 day in the rest, and the car is also repair and every check. So bring new tomorrow evening, tomorrow night. So we are last part one is go to Mauritania attack. So this is today maximum attack is no problem.
So, für uns lief es eigentlich ganz gut heute.
Gürtel Kleinschmidt here saying it was a difficult stage, but not too hard for us because we made a good navigation, and Andreas Schultz alongside me, he did well. I catch nearly 4 or 5 minutes on Shinazuka. The dunes were not so difficult to pass on, so in general it was a good day. Jean-Pierre Fontenay saying it was a difficult stage. At the beginning, we went through everything, but it was okay. But the sand was very soft, and then it got even softer. I think some are going to be in there for a very, very long time today. But it was a beautiful stage because the end was very fast, although very sinuous as well, with a lot of driving skill involved. Interesting, but really good. Well, we have seen the stories, we have seen the pictures of many, many people retiring from the Dakar. We know about the people, but just what happens to the nuts and bolts, the metal and the carbon fibre of the bikes once the rally is over? Well, this official from TSO saying this bike has obviously been stopped here on the stage at 132 kilometers, and it was picked up by the broom wagon, as we call it, between Ozazat and Tantan, and then it's arrived here. We organised many points on the rally where we can take the bikes back to France, and we had 17 motorbikes going on the first evacuation, and now we have a truck going back to Paris here. But also, in a couple of days, we collect the bikes from Tantan to Zourat, and then from Zourat to Attar, and on the rest day, we use a plane. And everything will go there to Roissy Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. The organisation has worked very, very hard to help the motorcyclists, and for some years, sometimes we have left some behind, but I can surely say now that we collect more and more every year, and so there are less and less kept behind. On the plane, and back to Paris they go. Well, you've seen the cars going through the sand, you've seen the motorcycles going through the sand. But what about trying it with some 12 tons, 4-wheel drive and 700 horsepower? Yoshi Sugawara, he's done the Dakar on a bike, in a car, and as you can see, in a truck. He was third on the stage today. Johan Peter Reif got through safely with his MAN, servicing the KTM team, who are, of course, leading in the motorcycle section. Carol Laprace, he was some 1 hour and 45 minutes back of the winner of today's stage in his Tatra. And that winner was Vladimir Chigin. He went so well last year until it went pop, but no problems for him today. He's now leading by 1 hour and 45 minutes ahead of Carol Laprace. The Mitsubishi trucks continued, although they were not concerned about going for the lead in the truck section, more concerned about getting those spare parts back for the Pajero squad. Well, no competitive running tomorrow, as it is the rest day here at Attar in the middle of Mauritania. Although for many of the crews it won't be a rest day for long, as they'll be working on their bikes, their cars and their trucks. However, no rest for us here in the TV squad. We will be bringing you a programme tomorrow, so stay tuned.